English expressions. Fan mail. Well, anyway, here's the letter. It's from one of our Japanese listeners who speaks English and who listens to our program in order to brush up on his English. Our friend writes, "May I beg your pardon, but allow me to write to you like this. Thanks to your kind help, we are making rapid progress in spoken English. As you know, almost all Japanese learn the English language, but few can actually talk with Americans. In fact, a lot of Japanese people want to talk to Americans, but it's very hard to speak English freely. Every Sunday evening, your program, Enjoy Japan, is not only for American people, but also for Japanese. I think you are executing a very big role for promoting friendly relations between the two countries. Sincerely yours, S. Onuma." Isn't that a nice letter, Hiroko?
Yes, and he writes English very well.
Well, it's gratifying for us to know that we are promoting friendship both ways. And that, of course, is what, in our small way, we're trying to do. But we hope at the same time we manage to answer some of the questions still in the minds of our American listeners about our hosts over here, the Japanese people. And that brings us right back to the subject of this evening's discussion.
Meishin.
Or superstitions. I think most people in America admit to a superstition or two, Hiroko, even if they claim not to be superstitious. Very few, for instance, will walk under a ladder. And if a black cat crosses someone's path, well, he'll worry about it just a little. But of course, all the time, this is customary, all the time he'll tell you he doesn't really believe in these superstitions. Not really. But still, just to be on the safe side.
I know, we Japanese are same.
I wonder how many superstitions exist in Japan.
Oh, I never counted them.
They must run into the hundreds. But speaking in general terms, Japanese superstitions seem to fall into 7 distinct categories. I know I sound like a professor now, classifying this way, 7 distinct categories, but nevertheless, that's how it goes. I've listed the 7 kinds of superstitions here. Would you be good enough to read them, Hiroko?
All right. First is Hogaku.
That means superstitions of direction.
Next, Ninso.
Or physical features.
Third, Kaso.
Which means house structure.
Next, Engi.
This has to do with omens in general.
Next, Higara.
Superstitions about dates of the calendar.
And finally, Majinai.
Which is a kind of exorcism or casting out of evil spirits. You know, I made a mistake. There are only 6. I thought I had listed 7, but I see we have 6 here. Well, from all that, it sounds as though the subject of Japanese superstitions is pretty complicated. But at least it's no more complicated than the lore of superstition anywhere else. Now, let's look at some of these superstitions and see how they work.
First, Hogaku, or superstitions of direction.
According to these beliefs, you should always start an important journey in the right direction and on the right day for that direction. Certain objects, like a house, should always point in certain directions. It's all based on the signs of the zodiac. These signs, as you know, are grouped in a circle. Each direction has a certain animal name taken from the zodiac: horse, rabbit, monkey, and so on. For instance, if you happen to have been born in the year of the dog, the direction of the dog will no doubt be lucky for you.
But there's one direction that's always unlucky.
And that is northeast. In Japan, this is known as Kimon, or the Devil's Gate. Never put the entrance to a house in the northeast. Never sleep with your head in this direction. I once lived in a private rental, Hiroko, where the owner built a whole new gate, changing the entire garden and the driveway, the wall and everything, because the direction of the former entrance wasn't quite right.
The next kind of superstition is Kaso.
This has to do with the way a house is built. If the owner of a new house has bad luck, he may blame it on Kaso. Entire houses have been torn down and rebuilt because of Kaso.
Next is Ninso,
which concerns itself with the way people are built. Now, there are certain fortune tellers who will go so far as to choose a career for a person according to the shape of his ears or something similar. But perhaps the greatest number of superstitions in Japan come under the heading of Engi. Engi is the word for omens, both lucky and unlucky.
Sometimes a person's age is lucky or unlucky.
Yes, let's explain that. For example, the ages 19, 33, 42, and 47 are all considered unlucky. Most of these numbers are based on, well, you might call them puns in Japanese. Take 19.
Juku.
Chances are you know the numbers in Japanese. Ju is 10, Q is 9. Therefore, juku is 19. But this word, juku, has another meaning. It's the word for repeated sorrows. No wonder it's unlucky. Now, here's another example. Sanzan, which stands for the digits in 33, might also mean hopeless miseries.
But we also have superstitions about good luck.
Okay, let's look at the bright side for a moment here. Some of the things used in the New Year's celebration have to do with good luck. Take mochi. Mochi is a kind of beaten rice cake eaten at New Year. And its name, mochi, also means to have or to hold. The implication, of course, is to have or hold riches, or maybe to hold a pretty girl, I don't know. Thus, mochi becomes good luck.
Another example is a kazunoko.
Kazunoko is the roe of a herring, another celebration food. And the word can also be translated as many children, which might be good luck for some, but possibly not such good luck for others. Well, now, the familiar pine is used in certain ceremonies because its name, chitose, means 1,000 years. And speaking of food, you'll notice the Japanese people, when invited to dinner, always eat more than one bowl of rice.
Because they are hungry, desho?
Yes, because they're hungry, but it's also a superstition. One bowl of rice is regarded by some people as an offering to the spirit of a dead person. That brings us to another important superstition, which has become a part of Japanese etiquette. Never pass food with your chopsticks directly to another person's chopsticks. The reason? Well, at a cremation ceremony, the charred bones are passed from person to person with chopsticks. And so it's just never done at the table. Well, let's see what other superstitions we have.
We have a great many in the sport world.
Yes, sumo wrestlers, for example. If you've watched the sumo matches on TV, you've seen the wrestlers take a handful of salt just before going into combat and scatter it in the ring. Salt is highly regarded in Japan as a means of purification. But let's go back for a moment to the superstition we mentioned at the beginning of the program. We gave you a surefire formula for getting rid of an unwelcome guest. Remember it?
Put a towel around the broom and stand it upside down against the wall.
Now, here's the story behind that. A long time ago, there was an old man with a great aversion to dust. Whenever company left, he always had the house dusted very thoroughly. If the company stayed too late, the servants used to get ready for the usual job of cleaning and dusting as soon as the visitor left. And so they'd stand a broom wrapped in a towel against the wall. And that's come to mean that someone is wearing out his welcome.
You can also burn the geta.
Oh, yes, I almost forgot about that one. There's a certain school of medicine in Japan which recommends burning pinches of a special herb right next to the skin. Some people swear by this treatment, while others in this modern age regard it as little more than a superstition in itself. At any rate, if you take some of this medicine and burn a little spot on the wooden sandals or geta belonging to your unwelcome visitor, you should get results. Why? Because symbolically, the burning treatment sets the footgear into motion. And, of course, we hope taking the visitor with them.
But sometimes your visitor is a sweetheart.
Yes.
Then you want your visitor to stay.
Of course. And in Japan, there are any number of charms guaranteed to promote or cement a romance. For instance, you might burn a certain lizard called a newt and slip the ashes into the tea or hot sake of your beloved. And then, well, there'll be a wedding kimono before you know it. And if you don't care to burn your own newt, you can actually buy in certain old-fashioned drugstores, even today, the ashes all ready-made.
Omoshiroi.
So desu ne, omoshiroi. Interesting. Incidentally, I have here a little information which is more along the line of hard fact, but might be valuable for you to know if you're a member of the security forces. Sometime during your tour of duty here in Japan, you may want to get an off-duty job. Or if you're a dependent, you might like the chance to make some pin money. Does either the U.S. military or Japanese government object? The answer is no, if you get the necessary approval and if you obey all relevant U.S. and Japanese laws. For one thing, you have to apply for permission through channels, and you can't start working until you've got that permission. That permission may be denied if your employment would deprive a Japanese citizen of work. That, you'll agree, is reasonable. Another factor is taxes. If you earn money from Japanese sources, you have to pay Japanese taxes on it. Now, as for work performed in the public eye, that comes under special important rules. This means radio and TV appearances, acting in Japanese movies, posing for pictures in magazines, that sort of thing. It includes writing for publication. As a member of the security forces, you're an official representative of the United States. A public appearance that is embarrassing or unfavorable embarrasses your country. And that's why you have to get special permission, which is granted when there are no chances of embarrassment, to make such appearances. Letters to the editor? Some people like to pay compliments or blow off steam by getting in print on the letter page of a newspaper. Well, before you dash off that next letter, think about 2 points. 1, by regulation, members of the military are not permitted to write about military subjects without approval. 2, members of the security forces are absolutely required to abstain from political activity in Japan. Well, as a general rule, lay off writing letters in a critical vein. It's common courtesy to our hosts, the Japanese people. All in all, there's nothing particularly complicated about this business of private employment, commercial activities, and public appearances. It's a question of using common sense and remembering 2 guides. 1, before you accept private employment, get proper permission. 2, after you get permission, make sure you obey all relevant U.S. and Japanese laws. In essence, it means this: check carefully with your CO or his representative first. Now, let me just give you those 2 points again. They're very, very important. 1, before you accept private employment, get the proper permission through the channels. And then 2, after you've got permission to take employment in Japan, make sure that you're clear with all relevant U.S. and Japanese laws concerning this matter. It all means this: check carefully with your CO or his representative who will know the ground rules first. Well, that's all I have this evening, Hiroko.
Then it's time to say sayonara.
But only until next week, when we'll have more miscellany about the land of the rising sun. Until then, this is Walt Sheldon.
And this is Hiroko.
Saying, while you're here,
日本を楽しんでください.
which means enjoy Japan. Enjoy Japan was produced in our Tokyo studio.